What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a simple workflow that auto sends personalized responses to prospects, creating it right here in Anytime. So let's get started. So in Anytime, I've created a workflow that I've renamed to follow-up generator. And here, we're going to add a trigger. Since we're capturing email responses from prospects, I'm going to search for Gmail. We're here to add a trigger. And I'm going to click on Gmail, and our trigger is going to be an on message received trigger. Here, you'll need to create a new credential to connect Gmail to Anytime by signing in with your Google account right here. And then on the new window that pops up, choose the account that you like to connect to Anytime, and then your credential will be created. Since I had already done that, I'm going to close this right here. And then for the mode here, you can choose when you'd like to run this trigger. So you can choose to run it every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month, or customize it right here. The event will be on message received right here. So here we can try sending a message to a prospect and then replying it so we can capture the response right here in our trigger. So to do that, I'm going to send this example outreach email to an example client or prospect. So the email is on the lines of, "Hi Denis, I run Luxe Automation where I design workflows that eliminate manual tasks and free up hours every week instead of chasing spreadsheets, emails or repetitive client updates. I build systems that handle the busy work so you can focus on growth. Teams I've worked with have seen faster client onboarding, smoother follow-ups, and better visibility across the operations, all without adding extra headcount. Would you be open to a quick chart so I can show you what this could look like in your business?" And then here we can decide to send this email to a prospect. Here is the email that we sent to the prospect. Now we can decide to reply to this prospect with this message similar to this one right here. So we're saying, "Thanks for reaching out. What you described sounds really useful. You've definitely been spending too much time on manual processes. I'd be interested in learning more about how Luxe Automation could help streamline things for us. Do you have availability next week for a call?" So here, this could be the response that our client is sending to us. After we send them this outreach message, we're going to generate a workflow that automatically responds to a prospect after they've already replied to our call email or our outreach message. In our workflow, here I'll click on Fetch Test Event. And then here you can see we're getting a snippet of our email response that our client responded with. So here I'll turn this to off to get the full email. And now here you can see the full email right here that they sent us. So we can pin this data and use it to set up our workflow. So now the next thing that we can do here, we can wait for, let's say, 3 seconds. Right here, then here I'll name this to wait 3 seconds and execute it right here. Now, the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to clean our email from maybe emojis, lines, or any other, or all this other information that we are getting right here. So we would like only to get only what the client responded with. So we can generate the personalized response for them. So to clean our client's response, we're going to use AI. So in AI, I'm going to click on OpenAI node right here. Then I'll click on message model. Yeah, you'll need to also create a credential like we did with Gmail by clicking on create a new credential. Then from your OpenAI API, add your API key right here. Then click on save to create your credential. Since I had already done that, I'm going to close it. And here I'm going to choose a model. I'm going to choose the latest model right here. The latest model is GPT-5. It's the latest model that we're using currently. I'm going to choose 4.1. It's a more favorable one. And here we're going to add a prompt for the user role. Prompt could be on the lines of, "You're an assistant that cleans email replies." Here I'll add a message and add a prompt for the user role right here. So the input will be a full client email that may contain signatures, previous message threads, disclaimers, or automatic footers. And here we're adding the response, our client's email on Gmail right here, adding it as a text right here. Then we're telling the AI remove signatures, for example, name, job titles, phone numbers, best regards, etc. We'll also like the AI to remove quoted previous message. So this quoted message right here. We'll also like to remove disclaimers or confidentiality notice. We'll also like to remove breaks and new lines, and return only the core message the client wrote in plain text. The output should be a clean client response only, no extra formatting or explanation. So here I'll click on back to canvas and turn these options to on, and then I'll click on execute step right here. And now you can see we are getting our clean client response over here without any emojis, disclaimers, or all the other information that we eliminated using our AI node over here. So I'll click on back to canvas right here, and here I'll rename this to client response cleaner. The next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to wait a few seconds. For example, we can wait, let's say, 2 seconds right here. Then I can rename this to wait 2 seconds. And I'll click on rename. The next thing that we're going to do here is once we cleaned our client response right here, we're going to now analyze the sentiment of the client, and then we're going to either categorize it as a positive, neutral, or negative. So to analyze the client's response, we're going to also use AI. So in AI, I'm going to click on OpenAI right here. Then I'll click on message a model. Here we'll first of all need to execute this previous node. And then here I'll open this node. And then here we're going to choose our credential. Then our model, I'm going to choose GPT 4.1 right here. And then here we're going to add a system role. Then I'll click on expression, expand it right here, and add this prompt, which is on the lines of you're an assistant that classifies client email responses into sentiment categories. And here I'll click on back to canvas, then I'll add the message and add the prompt for the user role over here, expand it right here, and the prompt comes on the lines of here. So here we're going to start by adding the cleaned client response. Then we're telling the AI analyze the tone and intent of the client's response and classify the sentiment into exactly one of these categories: positive, neutral, or negative. So we like to classify the response as positive if the client is interested, agreeable, or open to the next steps. We would also like to classify the client's response to neutral if the client is uncertain, asking for more information, or non-committal. And lastly, we like to classify the response as negative if the client is not interested, declining, or dismissive. And we'll only like to output the sentiment as either positive, neutral, or negative. So here, I'll output content as a JSON. Then here I'll click on execute step to analyze our client response right here. You can see it was a positive response. So here I'll click on back to canvas, and here I'll rename this to sentiment analysis, then click on rename right here. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to use a switch node to switch between the classifications. So here I'll search for a switch node right here, then click on it. So here, if the sentiment is equal to positive, we'd like to rename it to positive. Then I'll add the routine. If the sentiment is equal to neutral, I'm going to rename it to neutral. And lastly, if the sentiment is equal to negative, I'm going to rename it to negative. And here we can execute step, and you can see our sentiment was in the positive branch right here. So now we can set up our positive branch right here. So here, we can wait a few seconds. For example, we can wait, let's say, 4 seconds. Yeah, I'll rename this to wait 4 seconds. And click on rename. Now, the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to generate a custom reply to our prospect's response. So I'm going to use AI. I'm going to use OpenAI. And then here I'll click on message model node. Here we can first of all execute these steps. And we can go back to our model right here. I'm going to choose our model. I'm going to choose 4.1. And here we're going to add the prompt for the system role. The prompt is on the lines of you're an assistant that writes professional but friendly sales follow-ups. And here we can add the prompt for the user role. Right here. The prompt could be on the lines of the prospect has responded positively and shown interest in automation services. Then here we're adding their response. Then we're telling the agent acknowledge their interest and suggest a clear next step, for example, scheduling a call, quick demo, or sharing availability. Keep the tone professional, approachable, and concise. Do not include greetings like hi prospects or any placeholders. Do not use dashes, and sign off as Dennis from Luxe Automation. So here I'll click on back to canvas right here. And then here I'll like to output the content as a JSON. Then here I'll click on execute step. Here you can see now it generated for us this very personalized reply to our prospect's response. This is incredible. So here I'll click on back to canvas right here. Then here I'll rename this to positive reply, then click on rename. And now we can reply to the prospect. So here you can wait, let's say, a few seconds in case we're sending multiple emails to prospects. So we don't want to overwhelm Gmail. So then here I'll search for Gmail, and then I'll click on reply to a message node. Like we did here, we're going to execute step first. Then now I'll go back to Gmail, and here we're going to add a message ID. So in Gmail, trigger, I'll drag the ID right here. Type, I'm going to choose text. And then the message will be this message that we generated right here. Then I'll click on execute step to send the message. On other options, I'm going to click on append anything attribution, turn it to off. Then I can send the reply to our prospect. This is incredible. The last thing that we're going to do here is we're going to log in the client response and the reply that we generated using our workflow to a database. In Airtable, I've created a database that I've renamed to follow-up email base. And then in this table, here's where we're going to add our client responses. You're going to add the client name, their email, status, which can either be positive, negative, or neutral. Then the client response that they responded to our outreach email. Then the follow-up reply that we generated using our workflow. Okay? In case our team would like to come in and check the responses that our workflow is sending to our prospects. So now to log in our responses from here to this base, I'm going to search for Airtable. Then here I'll click on create a record. You'll also need to create a credential like we did previously with other nodes. By clicking on create a new credential, then add your access token right here. Then click on save to create your credential. Since I had already done that, I'm going to choose my credential right here. Then here I'm going to choose our base. Our base is, I'm going to choose the follow-up base. The table will be the client response table. And here we're going to map values to our columns in our table with the data from our workflow. So the client email, we're going to grab the client email, the client name and email from the email that they sent us right here. So I'll map the name right here and the email. Status, since this is a positive branch, I'm going to choose positive. Client response will be this text that they sent us right here. And lastly, we're going to add the follow-up that we're sending them, which is this email follow-up right here. And then I'll click on execute step to add our data to our base. Now when I open our base, you can see we added a new record right here. We added a client, the email status is positive, found that the client sent us, and the follow-up that we generated using our workflow and sent them. So our positive branch works perfectly. I have the neutral and the negative branch. We're going to follow the same process that we did right here. The only thing that we're going to change is this node, where now it's going to generate a different response to the prospect. So instead of having to manually set up like we did with the positive branch, and they're all going to be the same, we can try to duplicate these nodes a couple of times. So this one will be for the neutral. You can try duplicating this one again, and this will be for the negative right here. Then we can auto align it. Now we can auto align our workflow right here. And now the only thing that we're going to change is the prompt for our neutral and our negative nodes right here. Let me do that. I've changed the prompt of this node over here. So the system prompt is on the lines of, you're an assistant that writes professional but friendly sales follow-ups. Then the prompt for the user role is on the lines of, the prospect has responded with a neutral message that shows uncertainty or request for more details about automation services. And here we're adding our prospect's response. Then we're instructing AI to politely acknowledge their response, provide clarity by briefly explaining the value of Luxe Automation's services in simple terms. Then we'd like the AI to suggest a light next step, such as sharing a short example, sending over details, or scheduling a quick call. The agent should also keep the tone professional, approachable, and concise. Also instructing the AI not to include greetings like hi prospect name. Also like not to include dashes, and would like to sign off as Dennis from Luxe Automation. So that is a prompt for the neutral reply response. Then for the negative reply response, the system prompt is on the lines of, you're an assistant that writes professional but respectful sales follow-ups. And then the user prompt is on the lines of, the prospect has responded with a negative message indicating they are not interested in automation services. And here we're inputting the client's response. Then we're instructing the AI to acknowledge their response respectfully. We'd also like to thank them for their time and consideration. We'd also like to leave the door open for future contact without pushing for a meeting. We'd also like to keep the tone polite, professional, and concise. We'd also like not to include greetings like hi prospects and dashes in our email. And then we'd like to sign off as Denis from Luxe Automation here. And then, so those are the prompts for our AI nodes right here that are responsible for generating personalized responses to our prospects. Then we're waiting a few seconds. Then here, we're replying to the prospects over here. So we start generating the customer message. We're going to map it right here. And then the only thing that will change on this Airtable node is the status. So for the neutral response, we're going to show the status as neutral right here. And then for the negative, we're going to change it to negative over here. And here I'll click on back to converse right here. So now we can try executing our workflow to test it. Now, to test our workflow, here, we're going to unpin this data. And we can try sending a response as a neutral response as a client. Here, we're going to assume this is a outreach message that we sent to one of our prospects, and we're going to reply with a neutral response. So the neutral response could be in the lines of, I appreciate you reaching out. I'm not sure if automation is something we'd be ready to commit right now. I'll be open to seeing what kind of processes we usually set up and how they could apply to our business. So I'll send this message right here. And then in our workflow, I'm going to click on execute workflow over here. Here, you can see that our workflow was executed successfully. And when I open this node over here, you can see we captured our neutral response from a prospect. So here's a neutral response. And then we wait a few seconds. Then we clean the response using this node right here, where we only outputted their response, their clean response. Then we wait a few seconds to analyze the sentiment using this node right here. The sentiment was neutral. Then we wait a few seconds to generate a neutral response, a response to the prospects. And here is a custom response that we generated using this node right here. Then we wait a few seconds to send the reply to our prospect using this node right here. You can see it was sent. And then we logged in the client data, the response, and the response that we generated using our node to our database. Here, you can see the custom response that we generated using our workflow that we sent the prospect. The response that our workflow generator for us is on the lines of, thank you for your response and interest in our automation services. Luxe Automation helps streamline repetitive tasks and integrate different tools so your team can save time and focus on high-value work. For example, you can automate daily reports or client follow-ups with just a few clicks. I'll be happy to share a brief case study or schedule a quick call to discuss your specific needs. Let me know which option works best for you. Best regards, Dennis from Luxe Automation. Now, when you open our database, you can see we added a new record right here. So we added the client name, email address, status was neutral, since our sentiment, after analyzing the sentiment, it was classified as neutral. Right here, then we added the client response and the follow-up email that we generated using our workflow right here to our database. So our neutral branch works perfectly. Let us try testing the negative branch. Let's see if our negative branch works. Yeah, I'm going to send a negative response as a prospect. So here, we're going to add this response, which is on the lines of, we're not interested in your services. Please remove us from your list and do not contact us again. So I'll send this message. And then here, I'll click on execute workflow. There's our workflow. Here, you can see that our workflow is executed successfully. So when I open this node, you can see we captured the email response from our prospect. Here, then we wait a few seconds. Then here we clean the response using this node right here. Then we wait a few seconds and analyze the sentiment using this node. The sentiment was labeled as negative. Then here, it was switched to the negative branch, where we waited a few seconds and generated a custom reply to this prospect right here, this response. And then we waited a few seconds to send the reply to our prospect and then logged in the client response and the response that we generated using our workflow to our database. In our email, you can see the response that our workflow generated for us over here after we sent this negative response as a prospect. The response that is generated for us is on the lines of, "Thank you for letting me know and for considering our automation services. I appreciate your time and I understand that this may not be the right fit at the moment. Should your needs change in the future, I will be able to reconnect and provide any information you might need. Best regards, Dennis." Using our workflow. And now when I open our database, you can see we added a new record here. So here we added the client name, the email, the status this time around was negative. We also added the response that the prospect sent and the reply that the workflow generated and sent the prospect here. This workflow that we created here in Any10. Let us try testing the positive branch. To test it, yeah, I'm going to send a positive response as a prospect. Could be on the lines of, "I'm very interested in your services. Luxe Automation is exactly what we need, and I want to move forward as soon as possible." Then here, "Please send me your availability so we can book a call right away." So here I'll send the message. And then here, I'll click on execute workflow to test our workflow. Here, you can see that our workflow was executed successfully. Here, captured the positive response that we got from one of our prospects. Here, so the positive response was this one right here. It's on the lines of, "I'm interested in your services. Luxe Automation is exactly what we need, and I want to move forward as soon as possible. Please send me your availability so we can book a call right away." Then here we're waiting a few seconds, and then we're cleaning the client's response right here using this node. Then we're waiting a few seconds, then we're analyzing the client's sentiment using this node right here. The sentiment was a positive sentiment. Then here we are switching to the positive branch. Then we're waiting a few seconds to generate a custom response to this prospect. Here's the email that we're sending to our prospect that we generated using this node right here. Then we're waiting a few seconds to send the reply to the prospect. Then we're logging in the response to our database right here. Here is a custom response that we're sending to our prospect that we generated using our workflow. The response is on the lines of, "Thank you for your enthusiasm and for considering Luxe Automation. I'm thrilled to hear our solutions align with your needs. I'm available this week for a call, and I can offer time slots on Tuesday at 10 a.m. or Thursday at 2 p.m. Please let me know which options work best for you, or suggest a time that fits your schedule. Looking forward to discussing how we can help streamline your operations." Here, besides sharing the time that you're available, we can also share a Calendly link with this prospect. So you can define that in our node right here. Now in our database, you can see we added a new record over here. So we added the client name, client email, the status was positive. We also added the client response, which was a positive response. And then lastly, we added the reply that we generated using our workflow right here, using the simple workflow that we created right here in Any10. So our workflow works perfectly. Here we are capturing a prospect's response that is sent to us after we sent them an outreach message. Then we're waiting a few seconds to clean the response using this node over here. Then we're waiting a few seconds to analyze their sentiment from their response. Then using the switch node, either switching from positive, negative, or neutral, depending on the sentiment that we analyze using this node. And then we're waiting a few seconds to generate a custom reply to the prospect's response using these nodes over here. Then we're waiting a few seconds and then sending the reply to our prospect using Gmail. Then we are logging in the responses that our client sent us and the one that we sent them to a database in Airtable. And this is the database that we are adding the custom response and the client response over here. So here we're adding the client name, the email, status, the client response, and the custom reply that we generated using our workflow over here. Our workflow works perfectly. Now, if you'd like me to create this workflow for you, just click the first link in the description to schedule a call with me. On the call, we're going to discuss into details the workflow that you'd like me to create for you or your business, and then I'll proceed to create the workflow for you. But if you enjoy the video and you have a workflow or an AI agent that you'd like me to create using Any10, just comment down below in the comment section. I read all the comments, and if I land on your comment and I find it intriguing, I'll come back on a future video showing you how to create the entire workflow or AI agent from scratch using Any10. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.